Before I begin, here is some of the US-Iran escalation. World powers announced JCPOA agreement, also known as the Iran deal. Then presidential candidate Trump says he will withdraw the US from the JCPOA. The US withdraws from the Iran nuclear deal. US gives Iran demands. First sanctions targeting aviation, currency, and rugs. Second round of sanctions targeting oil and gas exports. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Iran declares the US a state sponsor of terrorism and called the US forces terrorist groups. US sends aircraft carrier strike group to the region. US sanctions Iranian steel and mining. 4 commercial ships sabotaged off the UAE coast, Iran implied to be the cause. Iran called the incidents alarming and regrettable. Houthi rebels attack oil pipeline. A rocket lands near the US embassy in Baghdad. Donald Trump responds, if Iran wants to fight, that will be the official end of Iran. Never threaten the United States again. Iran's foreign minister, Javad Zarif, responds, Trump hopes to achieve what Alexander, Genghis, and other aggressors failed to do. Iranians have stood tall for millennia, while aggressors all gone. Though it seems he fails to remember the relatively recent successful Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran in 1941. Tankers are attacked in the Gulf of Oman. Video reportedly shows an Iranian patrol boat removing an unexploded mine from a tanker hull. Iran denies responsibility. Deployment of 1,000 additional US troops to the Middle East. US drone shot down by Iran. Trump calls off retaliatory strikes against Iran 10 minutes before their execution due to the risk of civilian casualties, but threatens that if war occurs, expect obliteration like you've never seen before. US sanctions targeting Khamenei. IAEA reports Iran has breached the 300 kilogram enriched uranium limit. Supertanker Grace 1 is seized in Gibraltar, accused of carrying Iranian oil to Syria in breach of EU sanctions. Iran continues to breach enriched uranium limits. US Navy shot down an Iranian drone that came too close to the ship. IRGC sees British oil tanker the Stena Impero in the Strait of Hormuz. UK warships begin to escort all UK-flagged vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. US sanctions Foreign Minister Javad Zarif. Iran unveils new Iran-built air defense system to be incorporated into the missile defense network. Iran continues to exceed uranium enrichment limits. US sanctions Iran's civilian space agency. US alleged that the IRGC, a group of firms, ships and individuals, breached Syria sanctions. Iran begins advanced centrifuge gas injection to increase enriched uranium stockpile. Yemen's Houthi rebels claimed responsibility for drone attacks on 2 major Saudi Aramco facilities that knocked out more than half of the crude output from the world's top exporter. US blames Iran for Saudi Aramco attacks, claiming Houthi rebels couldn't have done it. Iran rejects accusations over the attack. Trump called for Iran sanctions at the UN General Assembly. US impose additional sanctions on Khamenei's affiliates, including one of his sons. Iran delivered 2,000 kilograms of uranium to underground facility and began centrifuge gas injection. US-led naval coalition launched operations in Bahrain. Pompeo accused Iran of preparing a rapid nuclear breakout. Iran implemented a near-total shutdown of internet services after unrest erupted due to Iran having abruptly raised fuel prices by a minimum of 50% and as much as 300%. The unrest spread to more than 100 Iranian cities and towns as protesters demanded that religious leaders step down. The death toll of the unrest varied by source. The opposition said that 631 people were killed, while Amnesty International put the figure at more than 300. Both numbers were dismissed by Iranian authorities. US imposed sanctions on Iran's Minister of Information and Communications for role in widespread censorship. General Qasem Soleimani threatens to destroy the US and allies. US warship seized advanced missile parts in the Arabian Sea on a boat believed to be linked to Iran. US imposes sanctions on Iran's biggest airline and its shipping industry due to alleged lethal aid to Yemen. US announced it will restrict visas for Iranian officials. A rocket attack involving more than 30 rockets on an Iraqi military base in Kirkuk killed a US civilian contractor, as well as wounding 4 US service members and 2 Iraqi personnel. The US execute defensive strikes on 5 Hezbollah militia sites in Iraq and Syria in retaliation for the killing of the US contractor. Sources said at least 25 fighters were killed, including 4 Hezbollah commanders, and 55 others were wounded. The heavily fortified US Embassy compound in Baghdad, Iraq is stormed and the checkpoint breached by pro-Iranian paramilitary groups, supporters and sympathizers. They failed to reach the main embassy building, which was guarded by what General Mark Milley referred to as a buzzsaw. Several hundred Iraqi Shiites took part in the protest. Preceding the attack, they chanted "Death to America" among other anti-US chants. They scaled the walls, attacked the gates, windows and doors with makeshift rams, smashed through the checkpoint, set fire to the reception area, raised PMF flags, anti-American posters, and sprayed anti-American graffiti. One of the attackers reportedly spray-painted "Soleimani is our leader" under a window. Video of the demonstration reportedly also showed militiamen ransacking the reception area and taking away paperwork. They also set fire to 3 trailers used by security guards along the embassy's compound walls. Later that day, Mike Pompeo identified Deputy Chairman of the PMF and Secretary General of Hezbollah, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, Secretary General of AAH, a branch of the PMF, Qais Ghazali, PMF Chairman, Fali al-Fayyad, and Iraqi MP, Hadi al-Amari, as the leaders of the attack. Some protesters also proceeded to sit in. The sit-in ends.
We have all the capabilities inherent in the United States military to either respond to further attacks or to take preemptive action if additional attacks are being prepared.
Up until now, Soleimani's name has been mentioned once, having been reportedly spray-painted during the embassy raid. But who was Soleimani? General Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was considered the second most powerful man in Iran, second only to the Ayatollah Khomeini. Soleimani was an Iranian Major General of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and commander of its Quds Force. Quds takes its name from Al-Quds, also known as Jerusalem, so Quds Force is the Jerusalem Force, because its goal is to liberate Jerusalem from the Jews. The Quds Force specialise in unconventional warfare and military intelligence operations. It is a division primarily responsible for extraterritorial military and clandestine operations. It also supports non-state actors, such as Hezbollah, to fight proxy wars. Soleimani and the Quds Force established close relations with Shiites in the region, and spread Iran's influence in what is known as the Shiite Crescent. Soleimani was responsible for killing the most US citizens since Bin Laden. Impressive for a fire-worshipping magi. Trust me, that's supposed to be offensive to Iranian Shiites. Well, but that seemed less offensive than calling him a sand. Anyway, he certainly partook in a fire ritual, though, to be fair, if he worshipped wisdom, the fire ritual may not have occurred. There was certainly a tar on that car. Soleimani was found with 2 self-inflicted General Atomics MQ-9 Predator-B Reaper drone laser-guided AGM-179 JAGM missiles to the back of the head just after he disembarked from an aircraft at Baghdad Airport in Iraq. Soleimani committed drone seppuku because Hillary Clinton knew that he kidnapped Madeleine McCann and forced her to become a child soldier in Afghanistan. Fighting on the front line was too much for Madeleine, and she later decided that she wanted to hijack aircraft. She told Soleimani that she wanted to go to Malaysia. Soleimani said no, so she plotted her escape. 2 weeks later, she stole a push bike from Omar and ran away. It took her 3 months to get to Nepal, where she befriended a group of lads that were about to go to Thailand to celebrate killing a Sherpa and getting away with it. "Fucking idiot," said Chad. "Who puts a fucking ladder over a hole in a glacier anyway?" said Donald. "Let's go to Thailand and make some prozzies disappear," said Andrew. The lads high-fived. Hey! And as the last slappy noise of the high-five rung out, this is when Madeleine walks in and overhears Chad, as he says, "I'll order the chopper, eh?" Madeleine cocks her Iran-made PC-9Z OAF pistol and says, "There's a spot for me, right, Didash?" After some nervous interaction and hesitation, they take her to Thailand. No. From there, she disembarks with her stolen bicycletta and cycles over the border to Malaysia. She eventually stowed away on a Malaysia Airlines flight to Brazil, and on the 1st of June 2009, she hijacked Air France Flight 447. Halfway between Brazil and Africa, she entered a high-altitude stall. Fortunately, she was able to use the parachute she had smuggled on board to escape. To avoid being found too close to the crash site, she kept gliding as far as she could. From the south, she could see a yacht that wasn't sailing toward the crash site, but it did seem to be crossing her path. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Epstein.
What did I say?
Sorry to interrupt, great Lord Sabbatic Goat King, but there's a parachutist floating towards us.
You fucking what?
He said in his thick New Yorker accent. She lands on the boat and is immediately seized by Epstein's guards. Epstein locks her up and interrogates her, and she tells him everything she knows. But while she is being interrogated, Hillary Clinton is on board and overhears. They know enough to take Salami to War Crime Tribunal now. All she needs to do is win the US election. Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. Clinton didn't win. It's alleged that Trump received the help of the Russians, and Russia are cooperating with Iran. Clinton wants war, so she tells Soleimani that if he wants to keep his secrets kept, he needs to start a war with the US. Soleimani masterminds the embassy attack. US embassy is attacked. The Pentagon released a statement. At the direction of the President, the US military has taken decisive defensive action to protect US personnel abroad by killing Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was killed on the 2nd of January at 5 p.m. Washington time / the 3rd of January at 1 a.m. local time. At least, that's what they report.